Hi, everyone. This is Bill Hagen, and I am the founder and president of BH Concert Productions. And today I have the pleasure to meet with one of my fellow composers that submitted one of his pieces. And, I just got obsessed about his piece, and we're going to know everything about what he does and everything. Please help me welcome Paul John Rudoi. Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk. For those that are watching this interview, this is gonna just be like a chat between two composers, and we're gonna talk a little bit about music and about choral music, which is both of us feel like it's our passion, like we love what we do. And just to give you a little bit of background, like I have a group here in New York City called BH Viva Vox, and the group doesn't exist technically yet because we didn't do anything. However, for our very first project, I just submitted a couple months ago a call for scores, just inviting people to submit their works and everything, so I can have a little concert programmed, honoring live composers that are really working hard to create new music for us. And Poe is one of the composers that was chosen to be part of this project. His submission, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. We're gonna learn everything about it. But Poe, enough of talking about me and concert production and all of that. We want to hear about you. So I start this interview asking my interviewees what to sell their fish. Like selling their fish is a Portuguese expression called that means, like, sell your fish, like, means uh, do tell us what you do and what you do and who you are in the best way possible. So Paul, is the stage is yours. Tell us about yourself, about your career, anything that you would like to us to know, like people that are knowing you for the very first time. What would you say to them to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, I guess I'm a choral nerd. That is basically who I am, and I've been that way for forever. I grew up singing a lot, to the point where they put me in the outfield because I wouldn't stop singing. And then I got into middle school. I got into a boy choir that ended up being 3 hours of singing a day. Couldn't get enough. Clearly, I was okay with that, so I got excited about that, and then in high school, I continued to sing as many choirs as possible. College, same deal. And then I was lucky enough to land a position in Cantus right out of undergrad, which was huge for me. And they were desperate, and I was desperate, and it all worked out. But I will say that the thing that I loved about it was that because it is a an ensemble led choir, I was able to learn on the job a lot. You know, there were holes in each program that needed to be filled with some piece that would connect the dots between the piece before it and the piece after it. And I just tried my hand at writing. And then, my friends at the time, who were in Cantus would tell me why it wasn't that great. And then I would learn, you know, or which was phenomenal. Or, we did a lot of education outreach. I had never taken any sort of education pedagogy class. But I learned on the job by learning from the people in Cantus who were just phenomenal at teaching. And over the years, I started conducting and that sort of thing. And so by the end of my time in Cantus, after 8 years in 2016, I realized that I loved the choral art form in every way, not just as singing. I considered myself a choral entrepreneur. And so I went to school to study choral conducting, and choral composition, or I guess composition in general, but with a specific focus on choral composition, with the idea that I would continue to explore what it's like to focus on narrative and thematic programming, and spread my wings a little bit and sing for other pro choral groups. So I've sung for Seraphic Fire and Santa Fe Desert Chorale, and True Concord is my mainstay right now. I go down to Tucson because in high school I was in Tucson for 3 years, so it feels like going back home, doing those contracts. But every every month or so, I head down there or to another location and sing a bunch of classics or new music, and it's kind of surreal that we get to do this, And in the meantime, on the side, I do content and communications for halftime for the National Lutheran Choir here in the Twin Cities. So it's nice to have, something that's related to music, but is also graphic design and that sort of thing. There's a level of creativity there that's totally different, but it also informs how I write and informs how I sing and how I conduct my choirs. And it's really nice to be able to be, I guess, in that way, an entrepreneur. You get to do a wide variety of things and enjoy them. So,
I love that, and I have so many questions with this open statement because you did such a great job, like summarizing everything, and I am curious. I want to ask you some questions. So, first question that I have based on everything that you said, I'll try to address all the questions, but let's see. Uh, could you walk me through the very first time that you realize that choral music is your passion? Like, do you remember the exact moment? Like, what were you doing and what you were listening to? Could you walk us through, like, oh, this is something that I want to do, and I love this. Just walk us through, like, the very first moments that you realize, not exactly the first experience with choirs, but the moment that you realize, I want to be a professional in this thing. Tell
yeah.
us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's actually interesting. I think it was really early that I realized it was like the thing I wanted to do all the time. It didn't necessarily mean that I was realizing I wanted to do it professionally, because
Hmm.
it didn't really occur to me until very late that I
Oh.
could even do it professionally. But
Hmm.
I remember as a kid, before I went to the American Boy Choir at age 10, at age 8 and 9, my aunt gave me a tape, right?
Hmm.
Of the Vienna Choir Boys. And I remember listening to that and being like, huh, that's interesting, like, I would ask my parents to play it, in the car. And then she gave me another tape, which was American Boy Choir on Tour. And
Wow.
I wore that out. I mean, I listened to it all the time. And I'm sure that part of it was because the majority of it was actually, I don't remember how much of it is in English and how much of it isn't. But I clearly connected with it a little bit more just because I didn't know any other languages, and I
Hmm.
didn't know, it just felt more connected to the kind of sounds that I guess was interested in. But again, I didn't have any context. So it was very interesting looking back that I literally wore out that tape. I mean,
Wow.
I listen to it now, on YouTube. They have most of those old recordings, like Carol or On Tour of the American Boy Choir. And I remember listening back off and on over the past couple of years and being like,
Mhm.
I remember it's a weird feeling. It's just like having that, a smell from a cuisine that you ate when you were a kid or whatever. There's clearly like a connection I have with that CD, and so it was apparent to me that I wanted to do that. Um,
Mhm.
then when the boy choir came and sung with my local community children's chorus that I was in,
Mhm.
they asked people to come up and audition, and I didn't know any better. I was like, sure, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then I
yeah.
get up there, and Craig Dennison, a phenomenal conductor. At the time, he was the assistant conductor, and he led me through some what I felt like were games, like sing the middle note of this chord. And I was like, I don't really know. I'm guessing it's this. I don't know what that is. I didn't know how to sight read. I didn't and know any of that stuff. But it was very apparent that I just loved like the absurd abstractness of music, and I could sing really well in tune. I knew that because I was singing in my church, off and on. So that was when I realized that like I
Mhm.
could just live in choral music forever. But it wasn't until my senior year at Hart, where I went to my undergrad,
Mhm.
that I just knew that I didn't want to do what I was going to do, which,
Oh.
I was a voice major, and I
Mhm.
was freaking out because I was a tenor. Clearly I'm a tenor, but at the time I didn't know how to cover. I didn't know how to do any of the things that you need to do
My
as
goodness.
an operatic tenor. And
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was kind of freaking out because I was at the tail end of my time. So all I knew was that my boy choir had sung with Contus at some point, and I knew that I didn't want to go down to Atlanta and get an opera degree, even though I had a TA. Like I'm lucky to say this, but like something about it did not feel good, right to me. Didn't feel right. And so I sent in materials 5 months late to Contus, knowing
Wow.
that it was very clear that I did not know how to cover yet. It was very clear that and I also didn't even know that they were full time. I no clue. I thought it was like if I get a part-time job doing something else, I'll just go do that. So I
Oh,
actually showed up not
wow.
realizing it was a full-time job. So it just kind of flew it. I don't know. I freaked out because I was like, wait a second, I didn't even know you could make a living doing this. And it's rare. I will say I was very lucky. It's so rare to be able to do that. But it was just the right time for me because I walked in and we sang like Whitaker's Luxurumque for the first time, TTBB. I'd never done that, and I just couldn't believe that we could sing these chords that well in tune.
Oh, it's
you know
beautiful.
so I was a kid in a candy store. So in many ways, I guess what I'm saying is for a long time I just assumed that I was interested in my hobby,
Mm-hmm.
and then it became my job, which
Wow.
we can talk about how that can be detrimental as well. Like
Oh,
we as musicians have a tendency to live to work, but
mhm.
if nothing else over the past 3 years, it's taught us that like there are benefits to doing things that are totally not related to our day-to-day life, even if we love doing it.
Yes.
And so finding that balance is really important because you don't want to burn out when you love music so much, you know?
Oh my good. So you touched a topic that is really personal to me because I am also a tenor and I also have a bachelor's degree in voice performance. And you said like something like, "Oh, I don't it's not that we are dumb or we don't know how to sing. Of course we do, but it's not exactly opera. Like I don't, talking from my heart. I don't care about all the areas and all the roles for the operatic tenor and all of that. And because I don't care, and I feel like it's kind of like I'm not gonna invest in this for longer because I understand that we need to develop some vocal technique to have healthy voices and powerful voices. And as a tenor, it's not exactly the easiest part to sing in a choir. You know that
Mhm.
we know what we go through when we are singing in a choir. So it's not exactly the easiest one to pick it up, even through your ears or vocal technique. And when you said like something was off, I felt the same way. I during my 4 years of college studying with like the operatic sopranos and altos, and everybody was having fun and everybody was talking about, oh, my voice does this and that, and I am a coloratura and I am a kind of different kind of tenor, and I wasn't just involved on that. Like I don't care. I just want to do harmonies. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I feel like the most beautiful sound. This is personal. I don't know if you agree, but the most beautiful sound that music can make, in my opinion, is vocal harmony. If I play a chord, a C chord in a piano, C, E, G, whatever. Sounds good. Okay. If I play a chord like a C chord with a string quartet, it's going to sound beautiful. But if I have three people, one singing the C, one singing the E, one singing the G, and they are all in tune and they are listening to get to themselves and they are able to blend, I feel like this is the most beautiful thing. What do you
Mhm.
think about that? Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. Like that definitely was one of the reasons why I loved singing in choir so much because it was like magic. There were things happening around me and my ears were ringing in really unique ways, and I just loved it so much. I will also say that one of my favorite things pretty early on was this relationship between the vertical and the horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
just loved that you would get these beautiful chords as everyone is, singing these beautiful lines. Like I think about Bach a lot in that way.
Mm-hmm.
These chords that line up so beautifully, but they're also, I mean, everybody has what is clearly an instrumental line moving from
Yes.
left to right. Like no question. I mean, not the chorales necessarily, but like it's very apparent that the textures are horizontal and they just happen to line up in certain ways that you have these really cool chords. I will say that that's something that I really love. I mean, as much as love Lauritsen and Whitaker and that sort of thing. Actually, Lauritsen's a good example. Like beautiful stuff that we all know, but like the Midwinter songs are so cool, and the way that he goes about adding marrying these horizontal lines with the verticality of the kind of the harmonies that we hear later, in like 1,000% in some of the other pieces that we
Mhm.
that we know, O Manu Mysterium, all that. It's like it's very apparent that this was kind of like coalescing, but the Midwinter Songs is a perfect example of that modern, vertical versus horizontal, and how they interrelate. It's
Oh,
very
I
cool.
love that. Oh my goodness. It's so good to meet people that it feels good not to feel alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not I understand that choral music in the on the level that I love, it's not exactly the level that the majority of us love, and majority of us, when I say like society at large,
Mhm.
it's something really specific. I feel like it's really specific to love it that much. Like some people really enjoy singing in choirs, but they're not gonna be professionals. They're not gonna be studying like counterpoint, or how
Mhm.
you can get to those chords through melodic lines or through instrumental lines, that and the hierarchy between the chords and the cadences. Like I understand that people are not gonna invest their intellect in that, but even though they are not invested on that, they still can enjoy the core music experience. So, and I feel like I agree with you, and I think the same way. Like it's so interesting. Like when a composer like Barr, like he's able to write like four parts, and you see each part independently, they work really well. If it was like a solo piece, for a solo soprano piece, that would work well. A solo tenor, solo alto,
Mhm.
that would work well. But when they go together, it's magical, because there is something else that happens, that it's written there, but you need to listen to feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really beautiful what you're saying. But I do have another question. So we are talking about our love for choral music and how choral music changed our lives for the better. I think it's a fair statement.
Mhm.
So tell me, like, we talked a little bit, you talked a little bit about working, like, part time, full time, and that kind of stuff. Like, it's really rare to get a full time job as a musician, especially as a choral musician.
Mhm.
And for me, it's like I never got it. Like what I have, it's exactly what you used to have as well. Like I sing in professional choirs here and there, but it's like a contract base, and all of that. It's not like I make six figures because I just rehearse all day. That would be my dream. That would be my dream. I go to the rehearsal from 8 to 5. I rehearse like 9 to 5, and I rehearse, and then we perform, and that's it. I could do this my entire life. However, we know reality, and we know that some of us need to make money, some of us need to serve society in a different way. So that's my next question. Like you realized over the course of your career, you realized that it's not exactly easy to have a full-time job in core music. Could you tell me, like, in your career, what happened? Like, you mentioned that you had an audition for a full time choir and full time kind of thing. But right now, how you divided? I saw based on your website that you divided your time, like you are an entrepreneur, just like myself. So you have other projects going on. So tell me how you balance your schedule in terms of keeping the fire alive, with the core music and singing, just singing or conducting or composing related to core music, and your other activities. How you balance that in your life, like work life balance, if we can call it that, because for us it's just work and life is the same thing because we do what we love. But I know that sometimes it's not exactly easy to do just what we love. So tell me moments, how you organized yourself in terms of that, like keeping your choral music going and also doing other stuff that you may have to do it, and you feel like that's a necessity. I need to serve my community in that aspect, like either for designer or anything else. Tell me how you organize your schedule in terms of all of that.
Well, I think, I mean, I will also say that I actually like my day jobs just as much as choral music. And
Oh,
and I will
awesome.
explain why, because
Mhm.
like at least currently, like the NLC position is well, there are aspects of everything that like there I don't know if there's ever a perfect job where every single thing that you do you absolutely love 100%, right? There were aspects of contus that were really difficult. But like that's normal. That's how life works. So there are aspects of the NLC job that aren't necessarily ideal for me personally. Social media is really hard
Mhm.
because on one hand, I kind of like don't agree with it, but at the same time,
Oh, pause, pause.
yeah.
What do you disagree with? Tell me.
Well,
Let's explore that. I want to hear your opinion.
I feel like the what social media promises us, that we are more connected than ever, that we can support one another, that there are plenty of ways to have fun online, with your friends, that sort of thing. I find that is a um, what's the best way to say this? Uh, I feel like it's a mask for the reality of just like needing to get profits and that sort of thing. And to be honest, I feel like I personally would be better without social media. I would be less connected to um, more people. I'd be more disconnected. But I think I would have more genuine interactions than I do when I am on social. That said, it's gotten better over the years. I will say, like when it first started, I was just like everybody was very excited because like Facebook started when I was in my undergrad. So
Mhm.
I really did see like the evolution of that when my brother joined when he was in high school, and then my parents joined when it got out of like just schools. Um,
Mhm.
and it kind of um, created this problem over time. Like they were impossible to yeah, I have a mixed relationship with social, but that's something that I have to do for my day job. Now, the other side of
Okay.
it is that I get to create, videos and edit audio for
Oh.
the National Lutheran Choir, which is something that I really like to do. Just totally side note from what I do as a composer or as a vocalist,
Mhm.
I get to create media that really moves people, not necessarily because I create it, but I have really good material that I can then make better, which is really fun and exciting, and it allows me to use my ears in a way just as just as um, a complex a way as when you're performing with a high level group, that sort of thing. So that's I do enjoy that. On the other side of things, that's half of my time. And
Mhm.
so because that's half and most of it is not nearly as musical, I'm not creating music for it. I'm not singing for it. Then
Mhm.
when I turn and I go and I sing with for True Concord, it's that much more fun because I'm like, oh, I've like built up this energy to go sing, or I've built up this energy to go write, or I built up this energy to go conduct because I conduct quarter time. I have a quarter time church job at Meeting House Church in Edina in Minnesota, and that group is small but mighty. And every Wednesday and Sunday that I come in, it's like rejuvenating because I get to help facilitate their best version of their choral sound. That's really fun. So I have all these mixed
Mhm.
components that actually keep me pretty level-headed. Whereas in Cantus, I really would live to work and I enjoyed it. But there were moments when, Brittany, who is my spouse now, at the time we
Mhm.
were dating, and there were moments when she was like, you're always on your phone. You're never ever like present.
Mhm.
And I realized that wasn't social. That was just me like working in Cantus. Um, and it doesn't mean that Cantus like required that, but I definitely got the sense that I worked or I lived to work instead of worked to live. So now I feel like it's more balanced. I mean, I'm doing things that are totally not music related. Like I made a card game.
Nice.
Like
I saw that on your website. I couldn't get like more information about that, but tell us about this card game. I want to know.
Well, it's just, I mean, last summer I was on vacation with my family, and I was trying to think of different games that could be made into card games, and we thought of Duck Duck Goose, which led to Duck Duck Moose with ducks with that hair, and
Uh-huh.
and I like playing games with my with my friends' kids, sometimes when they're visiting, and so I was like, well, what if we made our own game? And that's led me to like learn supply chain management, and
Wow.
how manufacturers and distributors work to get goods to, fulfillment centers. It's like it's super fun because it's a level of learning that I felt when I was learning choral music. And so in that way, it's all kind of connected. Clearly, I like learning. That's part of the beauty of being in this time. We can make music, but we can always learn more about what there is to learn in choral music, or we can take those skill sets and translate them into something totally different.
Wow. Oh, that's so good. And I feel like it's so important you saying this stuff because we are not the only ones. Like, for instance, I got more than 300 people submitting materials to me.
Right.
And
That's a lot of
300 people,
submissions.
a lot of submissions. Well, once it's also because I didn't charge anything because I believe that you know if even I'm not giving a money prize to anyone, but what I'm giving is like exposure and trying to take your songs to a different level, like to be sung by different people in different places, and I feel like this is valuable,
Mm.
regardless of money compensation. And it's so important that you're saying this because we are not the only ones. I totally believe that there are more people just like us that love music, love core music, but sometimes they are not like as entrepreneur as you are or as I am. And I feel like it's really important, like because you said like even though I love music and I love what I do, I am still learning other stuff. Even though, like talking about core music, like we don't know in everything that has to be known about core music. Like we are in this together. We are living. We are relatively young. I put relatively because I consider myself like I am 42, so I already
Yeah.
passed the barrier of like I'm not technically young anymore. Like I'm going more like life is gonna end, life is gonna end, get ready. That kind of mindset because 42, yeah, I was born in the 80s, 1980. So 1980, it's like ancient time for people that I work with because I am a elementary school teacher. I teach
Gotcha.
music, and they feel like I'm a dinosaur. If you might close to that. But to come back, like had, I asked you about like how you manage those things, and you said really important stuff because like you are married and you have your relationship with your spouse, and and she gave you some feedback, like you're always on your phone, and that thing, and it's really human experience because there's so much that we can do with music and core music, and there's only 24 hours, and on in these 24 hours we need to sleep, we need to eat, we need to take care of our body, we need to
Yep.
take care of people that are around us, our family. So
Mhm.
we don't have that much time. I wish we could have more time, but we
Right.
don't. And I feel like we agree in so many things. Like, I am trying to ask you another question. Like, I know that we have a schedule and I don't want to make this really long, but I could stay here like talking for 5 hours, okay? Just so you know.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoy knowing new people and knowing people that think like myself, and know people that share a little bit of my passion as well, which is core music, even though we have totally different upbringings because I'm from Brazil, you are from here, and
Mhm.
it's a different thing, but it's not about me, it's about you. I want to talk about you. So then the next question that I have, it's a really important question for our audience. Like, what is the skill that you feel like it's most important for people that wanna be relevant in core music art? So for instance, I wanna be a composer and I'm watching this video. What would you say to that person that it's the most important skill? If you can point to one or two, or whatever you feel like, what is the most important skill that you feel like someone that wants to work with choirs they have to have?
Uh, Well, I'll give two, but they're very different. One I'll give musically, and one I'll give like as a person. So
Perfect.
so musically, the best thing you can do is learn how to sight read or learn how to be really, really, really good at learning music quickly. I should say that.
Hmm.
So if that means, and ideally you also learn the piano very well, but like the context of that is just become very good at your job very fast, right? Because if you have a gig that's last minute, you can show up and do it. You can learn a piece in an hour if you need to, or I should say a concert in an hour if you really need to, you know?
Hmm.
And those moments, they come. Like there are always needs for when someone is sick. Like things happen, and
Hmm.
those are those opportunities that come once in a long time. And if you do it well, they will remember. That's a part of it. I think that's a crucial component. And that's kind of broad, but I just mean like if you're going into piano, then great, you should be the best pianist. But if you're like going into choir, you should be a really good sight reader. You should be able to do choir at any moment when someone asks you. And then from a
Awesome.
human standpoint, um,
Hmm.
uh, honestly, I feel like being humble in the sense of learning from others is crucial. Like I think, and I think I'm lucky that like I learned this pretty early on with Cantus, because Cantus is um, the way that Cantus works. You
Hmm.
cannot like just be angry at somebody. You got to figure out why and get past it. It's just like a family, but that works really well in a professional setting. Like if someone is upset at you for a choice you made, you should find out why. See if you can
Hmm.
reconcile that. Like me speaking as like a heterosexual white man in America, it's important for me to be able to hear people who previously have not been able to be heard.
Hmm.
Like, and take it to heart and try to learn and try to be better. Like that's and we are living in a time when that is way more important than it used to be. And sadly, it should have been important the whole time. But like that's what I am continually trying to learn more about myself is to be humble, be open to people's feedback or to people's experiences that I previously definitely should have known about, but haven't. And if you keep that mindset, it'll be it'll be a much more positive experience for you. Weirdly, even if you have moments that are not easy, you'll grow as a person, and you'll see choral music as a way to explore expressions from people that you never knew. And that becomes a really beautiful thing if you are open to it.
I love that last phrase. Like you can open yourself to understand other people's perspective, even though you're never gonna fully understand because, as you
Right.
said, like you are a male, a white male, heterosexual, and people are different from you, and people will not have the same experience. But the beauty of choral music is that everybody can sing together if we are listening to each other. Listen to each other.
Absolutely.
I feel like this is so important because helps with the blending and everything, and helps you to become a better human. I know at the end of the day, and I feel like that's what draws me to core music because I just want to be a better human. But in order to be better human, you need to acknowledge other people because other
Yep.
people are different from you. Like they are all different. And I love that. This is a perfect way to kind of approach the end of this interview. I'm so sorry. It feels like it's so little time, but you
No, it's
know,
fine. This has been great.
but
This has
it's
been great.
amazing. I love. Thank you so much for your honesty, your availability of sharing with us like a little bit of your experience, your life experiences, and share with us the your passion with core music. Like for people that are watching this, like we his piece, which is called "Hope and Quietly Wait." It's a beautiful piece. I listen all the time, and it's my mission to be able to perform that piece with a choir here in New York City, And Paul, thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate again your honesty, your availability to be open to all of that beautiful information that we got. I hope that people that are watching this they could take away some good things for their career and to learn a little bit. And thank you so much. Do you have any other final thoughts or anything that
No,
you would like to share with us?
no, this has been great. I thank you so much for taking the time. It means a lot. This has been awesome. So
Of course. Thank you so much, Paul. Enjoy the rest of your evening and, all success to your career. And for people that are watching this, thank you so much for watching. And please be tuned to our next episode. And I hope you enjoy it. Bye bye, guys.
thank you.